today we are going to finally sew in our signatures, and it might be a while before this gets uploaded, sorry, because I'm going to have to do probably 2 videos for this, not because it's going to be long, but because I need to separate it. So I'm just going to take out all of the bits and pieces that I have inside, and I'm just going to double check my pages are in, the signatures are in the right order, which they are. Okay, so actually let me just double check that. Okay, I don't think they are actually. I think this is the middle signature. Yep, this is the middle signature. So now they are in order. We've already cut out the canvas, so I've inked this side. Sometimes I tea stain it, but because I've already cut it out, it's easier to ink it, because if you tea stain it, sometimes it shrinks and you don't need to cut it out until after you've tea stained it, it's dry and you've ironed it. So this is the inked side, so I'm going to turn it over, and what I've done is just to give this a good crease, I've had it folded in half for a little while. Now you remember I said I always do 3 or 5 signatures where I can. I mean I do 4 occasionally, but I prefer doing 3 and 5 because I can work with the centre line. So I use the line on my board and I line that up with my crease in my fabric. So what I do is, the first one is pretty easy because I just line that up and I draw a line down that fold, and then I line the line up again and I do a line 1 centimetre either side, because I leave a centimetre between each signature. And I know, you know, sometimes I've left less if I've had a smaller spine and the signatures are not so big, but I tend to use that rule. So we've got that. Now what I do is I grab a little strip and I just fold this in half. It can be any size, it doesn't have to be a narrow piece like this. I'm doing a really bad job of folding this in half. The other 2 journals went swimmingly, so this one will obviously go wrong because I'm filming it, and this is one of those things that you can't go back and film again, especially now I've already sewn in the other 2 journals. This is the one. So what I do is I just take the first page from my journal and I'm just going to line this up, and I cut this to the exact size of my pages. So I've just had a Costa coffee and I'm so hot. So what I do with this piece is I'm just going to try and pick up my ruler, measure it. Actually, that's not what I do at all. I use my centre ruler and just a little mark where the centre would be, and then I come in the nearest 1.5 centimetres. You could use, what could you use? It depends on the size of the book. Because these are really small, I'm doing a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. That's, I don't know what you would call that. That's your inch. It's just over half an inch. I'm not sure what that is. Just over half an inch. Okay, so I've got my 3 holes in my card. So I'm just going to punch these out as my guide. Now I did all this in a little bit, probably a little bit more detail in my 3 and 5 hole pamphlet stitch tutorial. So what I do is I just do this by eye and I line this up roughly with my middle line, and just make sure I've got a pretty even amount top and bottom. Take my pencil and I just do a little line where each hole is on that centre line. Oh, I've got an itch, sorry, itchy back. Now I try my best to get this even, and I would normally have my head hanging over here. I use my lines and then I'll draw a little line across those, and I'll do the same for the middle. I'm using one of these lines to line the edge up and then trying to get this little mark lined up with one of my horizontal lines is what I do. I'm not going to rush this because it will go wrong as I'm on camera. Okay. This is a lot easier when you're not filming, I promise you. You're not under that pressure of people watching to see how it's done. So I've got my 9 points where I want to put my holes. Now I can see that line is absolutely on the her. So I'm going to redraw that one. That's better. So I take my awl, pokey tool, and push this, and I push it through a long way. 2 reasons. One, this is canvas, so it's self-healing. If the hole's not in the right place, you put a new hole in and the old hole will close up. And 2, if you don't make it big enough, you won't actually be able to see it very well because it will shrink. See, there you go, that's in the wrong place. So this is what I do. That second line there. And it is worth spending a little bit of time on this. Now I've turned this upside down. Not that it really matters at the minute. So, did I put that one in? See, that hole's already closed up. You can kind of, that one's closed up too. You can see your holes. And like I said, because this is canvas, it is like self-healing and it will close up. So that is our holes done. And this is obviously the holes ready for the signature. Now at this point, I'm just going to write top on here. So I know. Now what I'm going to do is go through these signatures. I'm only going to do one signature on camera, and then I'm going to finish sewing in the signatures. And then what I'll do is come back and show you how I attach this to the journal cover. So I'm just going to go through and make sure pages are going to catch holes and they're going to be neat and tidy. So this is signature number 1. I'm going to line up my template. You can absolutely paperclip this. I would recommend it if you've not done it before, as I did with my 3 and 5 hole pamphlet stitch tutorial. So I just slightly close the pages signature, and now I've got my holes in. So grab my cotton, and this is wax linen thread. I'm going to pull way more off than I need, because the last thing I want to do during the tutorial is have to start pulling the cottons through the holes. So I'd rather have a bit left over. So what I'm going to do is find the centre. Now I've got these all out of place. I normally have this ready. Okay, so straight through the hole. Now I pull it all the way through before I start with my canvas. So I've got my hole. Now I'm going to go into the middle hole on the canvas, and I'm going to come back through my top hole in my canvas. And now I'm going to spin it around. This is why I'm only doing one signature on film, because it's a lot of spinning backwards and forwards to get this in. So I'm going to go in the top hole. I'm just going to find the centre of my signature. Straighten up my pages. Now sometimes this will go straight through, as it has on this occasion, and sometimes it doesn't. So if it doesn't on the next one, I will show you how I go about doing that. So I pull the centre bit tail up, and I go in just below it, and I put my needle through my canvas, and this is where I start pulling my thread tight. Pull that through. So now we've got the top half sewn in, and I make sure that is now tight. You're not over tight, because we can tighten it again at the end, but this is where I make sure the canvas is tight. Okay, so now I go through the bottom hole, and I'm going to find the centre of my book, and I'm going to go in, and again that's come straight through. And if you hold your pages slightly shut but just use your hand, you'll be able to feel the needle coming through, and if you've got it at the same kind of angle you poked your hole, you're more likely to get your needle through. Pull that. Now I'm going to give it a good pull. I'm going to turn it over and make sure I'm tight on the back. Then I'm going to go through that bottom stitch, take out my needle, give it one final pull, but not over pull it, because you don't want to rip your pages. And what you don't want to happen is your canvas all gather up at the back. So I'm going to give that a double knot, and that is our first signature sewn in, and we just repeat that for 2 and 3. So I'm going to turn off the camera for a moment, and then I'm going to come back when they're all sewn in, and we'll put this into our cover. See you in a minute. Okay, I'm back. So I've sewn all of the signatures in. You can see I've got some nice straight lines, and we are ready to attach it to our cover. So I'm just going to be 100% sure I've got this the right way up, and 100% sure I've got my signature block the right way up. Okay, so what I use is I use Fabri-Tac, and what I do is I attach glue, making sure I get it right at the top and right along that line at the bottom and all the way in between. And again, obviously Fabri-Tac dries quite quickly, but you do want to be a little bit careful with this to get it as best placed as you possibly can. So my glue's not coming out particularly brilliantly. Give that a good coat, and obviously the more you have, in a way, the easier it is, because you've got a bit more moving room. So I hold this as tight as I possibly can, and I'm just going to run Fabri-Tac up the stitching on the signature. Okay, now I fold it over, straighten this up. Now I've got Fabri-Tac on the finger. I line it up in the centre as best I can initially by eye. Just use my fingers to kind of make sure I am half and half. Just going to lift the covers for a second, make sure I am level. And then what I do is I just push down and in between the signatures. And you do need to make sure you are happy with the placement before you start pushing down, because once you've pushed down it is very difficult to move it around. I'm so warm. Yeah, very happy with that. That went well considering I'm filming. I mean, like I said, if you've got quite a bit of Fabri-Tac, it's going to take a little bit longer to dry, so you do have some time. And call me paranoid, but I just keep pushing to make sure this is all stuck, because the last thing you want is a book to fall apart. So before I go ahead and glue these bits, I'm just going to double check. I mean, it's probably a bit late now, but you can see we've got an even gap top and bottom. If it's a tiny bit out, that's okay, but we've got a very well placed signature now in our book. So for the sections here, what I do is I run a bead of glue up that join, and the rest I actually apply to the fabric. The reason being is because if we put glue on our end paper, we're not 100% sure what's going to give us a perfect edge. Now, I don't come completely to the edge here because I'm okay with that fraying. That's the look that, you know, I wanted with this particular journal. So I'm now going to make sure my spine is flat, and I'm going to push that down. I mean, you can obviously put the fabric in first and then the end covers over the top if that's the look you want. The reason I haven't done it that way round for this particular journal, or these journals, is because I want the fabric showing, and also this is canvas, so it's quite thick. If you've got it underneath your end paper, you're going to have that ridge showing. So if you're going to have the ridge showing, you may as well have the fabric showing. Now, what I will not do is bend that for a bit. So I'm going to do the same on the other side without bending that cover. Oh. This is a little bit trickier. I mean, you can wait until the other side is completely dry before you do this, if you'd prefer. I'm not sure if my glue is not coming out very well, or if I just can't see it at the angle I am and the light. Okay, so put the glue back on my Fabri-Tac. So that is that done. I'm just going to literally hold it here for a bit Just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has joined my group. I have added some free images onto my website today as a little thank you to everyone who has joined. And what else have I got to tell you? I'm going to be back with a quick tutorial shortly for a lovely friend of mine who's asked about cutting down pages for a journal. So I know we've kind of covered that a little bit on putting a signature together, but I'm just going to go through a different type of kind of journal to do that. Okay, while I'm just waiting, I'm going to pull a few of these, wrinkle a few of these threads, give it a bit of a distressed look. Because there's obviously glue there, it's not going to fray too far. I just want to make that look a little bit more aged. That one I'll just cut when I get 2 hands free. And you can always go back over and carefully ink this a little bit more. Okay, so I think we're okay. If I slowly bend the covers, this was the one that was done first, you will see, hopefully you can see, we get a really nice crease down there if you wait till it's completely dry before you bend it. So this side was done second. Just going to very gently bend. And I can see I've missed a little bit of glue down here. Where it's fabric on fabric, it seems to take a little bit longer to dry. And I came level with the page with my glue, so I didn't come down quite far enough. I'm just going to hold that very slightly while I bend it. That's still not dry. If you try and close your book before you bend it, you're going to get a little warp in your fabric. There we go. So now, hopefully this will focus. You can see we've got a nice drawing. I'm going to just pop a little bit more glue there. That's the bottom. And that's the top. So it's a nice neat edge. Now I've got to try and find where there it is. Just where I need to put that little tiny piece of glue. Excuse me, sorry. Sneezing. There we go. So that is our signature in our journal. So the next thing we are going to do is I'm going to do this page cutting tutorial, and I'm going to give this a while to completely dry, but we're going to do something on the cover, and we will add tabs and beads and things to the journal, but that is our signature in. I hope you found that useful and it was easy to follow. It's going to take me a little while to edit this and get it uploaded, but thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.